Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of Let's Taste with the Intrepid Wino. We are away for the weekend, staying with the in-laws, and brought along some samples for everyone to be able to taste and discuss. So I'm going to open them up and share my impressions first. They are from a perennial contributor to Let's Taste with the Intrepid Wino, Darrenberg, who have been getting a lot of attention for their cube, their new amazing facility in the McLaren Vale where they are based. Were recently featured on MasterChef on Channel 10. And as I have mentioned on previous editions of Let's Taste, looking at Darrenberg wines, they are very, very prolific producers with a lot of different products. So it isn't there isn't a month that goes by without the opportunity to look at some new vintages, new releases from Darrenberg. So let's just go the whole hog and look at all 6 samples on this edition, starting off with the Hermit Crab 2017 vintage, which is a Viognier Marsanne blend. Recommended retail price of this one is 15 Australian dollars. You possibly maybe had here in the next room, Ollie playing with his grandparents. So start off with quite pale, just a nice kind of golden yellow colour. Very stone fruity, apricots, quite floral. Just a little bit of a grassy, herbal spice character. You can get a sense of the viscosity coming through here. Let's taste. Vibrant, fresh, very juicy, lots of flesh, a bit of creaminess, quite textural, but it kind of blows off quite quickly. All about that yummy stone fruit. The viscosity is not particularly prominent on the palate. It's still very fresh. Look, this is such an amazing white wine. For $15, it is hugely over-delivering in terms of value. It is just a shame that Viognier and Marsanne are such underappreciated varieties, particularly in Australia. This is a fantastic blend from a region that I think does those varieties, or that varietal blend in particular, very, very well. So, very strong start. What a killer of a wine for the price. Second one is the Lucky Lizard, also 2017. This is a Chardonnay. This time we're looking at one of the Adelaide Hills wines. Chardonnay, as I probably mentioned last time I looked at this wine, the Adelaide Hills is undoubtedly it's the South Australia's premier Chardonnay region. And Darrenberg does a very, very solid job with that variety. So let's see what the 2017 has to offer. Quite subdued. I think it's probably a little bit shy at the moment. I can't imagine it's been in bottle for that long. Maybe 3 to 6 months. Sorry, recommended retail for this one is $25. Very textbook, clean, fresh Chardonnay varietal characters. Let's taste. Bit of bite, bit of bitterness to it. It's certainly not particularly oaky at all. The mallow character is quite it contributes only a very small amount to the character. I think for a $25 Chardonnay it's very solid, but it's not kind of really super exciting. If you just like Chardonnay for the varietal characters, I don't think you'll be unhappy with this wine. It is very, very solid, very well made, but look, Chardonnay has a lot more to offer. Generally you do need to spend a little bit more for a good Chardonnay. Let's move on to some red wines. Now, this is kind of a tasting order that I have guessed, really. So let's start off with the Sticks and Stones, which is a Tempranillo Grenache Souzao and Tinta blend. So this is a kind of a Spanish Portuguese sort of blend. This is a 2014 vintage from McLaren Vale. Recommended retail price is $29. Okay, so this is going to be an interesting one to start with. Right off the bat, you can see there's a significant amount of colour here. It is very, very dark, purpley black, very concentrated. This is going to be I'd say it's a fairly dark, dense wine. Earthy, purpley red fruits on the nose. A bit of sort of smoky, sweet oak character. It presents more like a Shiraz, to be honest. It doesn't particularly look like a Tempranillo dominant wine. Although Tempranillo is 37%, Grenache is 36%, so they're almost the same. Sweet, dark fruited. Let's taste. It is fresher than I expected on the palate. It's showing a lot of youth considering it's 2014 vintage. Yes, there are dark fruits. Yes, there is some sweet tannins, partly fruit based, partly oak based, I would think. Again, like it's sort of maybe that blend, the varieties are kind of getting a little bit lost. To be honest, the Grenache kind of dominates that blend for me. It's very prominent. But it's a solid red wine, and like for $29, I think that's a pretty good buy. Maybe you're kind of missing out on looking at some of these Spanish and Portuguese indigenous varieties. Let's move on to the Custodian, which is a pretty well-known one from Darrenberg. This is the 2015 Grenache from McLaren Vale. Recommended retail price is $18 for this Grenache. I think the Grenache grape actually probably is McLaren Vale's best. Although having said, I have seen some Italian varieties from there that I've really loved. But Grenache, Shiraz is very prominent. Shiraz is very strong in the Barossa Valley, and you can also get some excellent cool climate Shiraz. But the McLaren Vale for me, Grenache is where it's at. So let's have a look at this slightly fresher example. Very bold, very, very aromatic, quite fruity, candied, raspberries, sort of strawberries, earthy, dark, slightly creamy, sort of salty carob characters as well. Let's taste. Quite tall, quite tight. Generous tannins here, nice fleshy fruit, not super heavy, it's quite fresh, I like that. Relatively earthy, but it's all about that lovely fruit. $18, banging Grenache here, really, really outstanding value. Custodian continues to be an extremely consistent quality wine. Let's look at a slightly more premium Grenache, the Derelict Vineyard. This is from the 2014 vintage. This is recommended retail of $29, like the Sticks and Stones. It's also the same vintage and has a sort of a similar kind of label design. There we go. A little bit darker. Well, maybe not like darker, but a little bit more concentrated. In fact, it's kind of a slightly redder colour here. Much more aromatic, very bold. Similar fruit characters, very varietal in nature, but very powerful, very expressive. Sort of less earth characters here, more prettiness, more floral notes. Let's taste. Tighter, leaner, more concentrated, more depth to it. More silky tannins here, more supple in nature, a little bit more savoury and lean. Possibly this is a product of a slightly cooler vintage. 2014 I think was a cooler vintage. A very refined Grenache. I think Grenache on its own can be very, very difficult to make into a quality wine, but I think Chess has done a very good job with this one. So 2 thumbs up on that. The Derelict Vineyard. I think it's a solid wine for the price. The last one we'll look at today is the Bonsai vine, which is a blend of 47% Grenache, 47% Shiraz, and 8% Mouvèdre. This is a 2016 vintage wine. It is recommended retail price of also $29. GSM, very classic blend. Right off the bat, you can see the difference between straight Grenache and GSM blends. Much darker in colour, much more intense as well. You know, Mouvèdre is an incredibly dark-coloured variety, or at least it can give you much darker-coloured wines. More subdued, more earthy and rich on the nose, more broad. Yeah, not as exuberant, not as sort of absolutely exploding out of the glass. Let's taste. Fuller, darker, more tannin again. Quite grippy, but not super heavy. I'm consistently impressed with how fresh the D'Arenberg wines are looking. I think even though they have the characters of darker fruits and lovely tannins, plush fruits, they're not heavy and they're certainly not oaky. They are very drinkable. They are reflective of the place, of climate, of the Australian style, without being kind of really outdated and slightly overworked, overwrought. They are very, very fresh wines. For me, they all kind of at least deliver at their price point. Some of them over-deliver. Probably the Lucky Lizard is the only one that I kind of would give a miss, but all the other ones I would happily recommend. Certainly the sub $20 ones are crazy good for the price. So thank you very much as always to D'Arenberg for very kindly donating some samples to the Intrepid Wino YouTube channel. If you'd like to see your wine profiled here on Let's Taste, please do get in contact with me. You can do so via my website, intrepidwino.com. You can also follow me on social media at Intrepid Wino on Instagram, Facebook and Twitter. Please do subscribe to the Intrepid Wino YouTube channel. There's lots of different videos here, including approaching 200 editions of Let's Taste. If you like this video, hit the like button, share it on social media, leave a comment. I'd love to hear from you. Please do share your D'Arenberg stories with me. But guys, until next time, cheers!